Welcome back, everybody. And in today's video lesson, we are going to learn how to build the blues scale. Now, the blues scale is one of the most important scales you can learn how to build for two reasons. One is blues is the most popular art form. It's the most popular style of music genre by record sales. And the second reason is the blues scale is really used a lot in soloing and in improvisation, which is soloing, making stuff up on the fly, right? So if you are interested in those topics, then you are going to want to learn how to build this scale. So when we build the blues scale, for now, we're going to learn how to build it using a minor pentatonic scale. And so let's go ahead and start with that. So our first step is build a minor pentatonic scale. And our second step, number 2, is we want to go ahead and add in a note. We have to add a new note into that scale. And this is simple. A pentatonic scale is going to be 5 notes. So over here, this is a 5-note scale. And the blues scale would be a 6-note scale. That would make it hexatonic. So not pentatonic, but hexatonic. Okay, so let's begin. So in order for me to build a minor pentatonic scale, I'm going to go ahead and build an A minor scale. And that would give me the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, back to A. Now to get a minor pentatonic scale, we've done this several times, is going to give me the notes. I'm going to strip out a few scale degrees here. I'm going to strip out scale degrees 2 and 6 relative to the A minor scale. And that would leave me with the notes A, C, D, E, G, and A if I'm building a minor pentatonic or pentatonic minor. Now for me to get blues, what I'm going to do is I have to add in a note, and that note is going to go right in here. That note's going to go right in here. Now, this is where I want to kind of stop and discuss something. If I write in the scale degrees here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1. Now on the bottom, I'll write in the scale degrees as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back to 1. Okay, so what is the note that I'm going to add in? Well, let's talk about it in relative terms. In relative terms, I'm going to say that the note is going to be between the 4th and 5th degrees of the A minor scale. So you would say that the note that I add in, if I were thinking about it in terms of a pure minor scale, obviously I'd still have to eliminate 2 and 6, but in terms of a pure minor scale, I think of that as scale degrees 4 and 5. So it's going to go in between. In terms of a minor pentatonic, it's going to be scale degrees 3 and 4. And so this is something that's very important, is when we talk about scale degrees, they must be relative to whatever scale you are talking about. Be very careful about that. You can see here that my 1s line up, but my 2s do not, nor do my 3s, nor do my 4s, nor do my 5s. It gets even worse, and I don't have any 6s or 7s. So if I said, oh, just add in the note between scale degrees 3 and 4, you need to really make sure that you understand that that's relative to a pentatonic minor. That has to be part of the language there. So let's go ahead and add that in. So in between here, we're going to add, well, the only note that we can add is either D sharp or E flat. So D sharp or E flat. Now, I want to stop and talk about this as well, because I think this is pretty amazing. But in general, like if I said, hey, let's build a major, well, you would build that using sharps, right? It has a C sharp, it has an F sharp, it has a G sharp. You wouldn't build it using flats. If you did, then you would end up with what's called a hypothetical key signature. In this instance, notice that I'm able to actually use either sharps or flats, and that's an interesting result. I'm able to do that because this is a chromatic line, and a chromatic line is when we have 2 consecutive half steps, and the consecutive half steps here would be from, let's go ahead and write them out. If I had D to D sharp to E, then this is a half step, and this is a half step. And what that really means is there is no other scale that is, in terms of Western type of scales, right? We're not talking about 8-tone Spanish P-logs, but in terms of Western types of scales, major scales, minor scales, your standard modes, your pentatonic scales, we don't have that. That doesn't occur. We don't have chromatic lines. So we don't, so chromatic is 2 consecutive half steps. Chromatic lines are 2 consecutive half steps, and so we don't have that, and so that's just, it's an interesting result. So that is why we're allowed to use either D sharp or E flat in our end result. So that is how we build a blues scale. Is first we build the minor pentatonic scale, we add in the note, and what note was that? Well, it depends. If you look at it in terms of a minor pentatonic scale, then I'm going to say you're adding in a scalar note. You're going to add in a note here between 3 and 4. Between those scale degrees. And if it's in terms of pure minor, then you'd say it's between 4 and 5. So altogether, our A blues scale is going to look like something like this. Back to A. And you'll notice that I have 6 notes here. So that definitely makes it hexatonic. It is a 6-note scale, and that is how you build a blues scale.